All right, welcome to day 2 of week 15. Today we're going to review the properties of equality that we started yesterday. We're going to do it with a lot of practice. First, we'll do the additive property of equality, which tells us, and I want you to write this down, you could add or subtract the same value to both sides of an equation. Okay, so whatever you do to one side, you do at the same time to the other side. So let's look at our first example problem. N plus 7 equals 12. Remember, it balances. We put a fulcrum right under the equal sign. And I do want you to practice this all week long. Do it exactly like I do it, even on the quiz. So on one side we have n plus 7. On the other side we have 12. We want to isolate our variable. We want to get n all by itself. To do that, we have to get rid of plus 7. So to get rid of plus 7, we're going to subtract 7 from both sides. Okay, so we're taking that 7 away. We're going to take 7 out of 12. So we're left with n equals 5. And before we move in, we plug 5 in as n to make sure it works. 5 plus 7 is 12. And I know a lot of times this can just be common sense, but I want us to practice the basics. Okay, so we have 8 equals b plus 5. We want to figure out what b is, so we want to isolate it. So we get rid of plus 5 by doing the inverse, which is minus 5. So 8 minus 5 is 3 equals b. And then we're going to plug 3 in to make sure it works. Yep. We're just going to practice this skill over and over. Now we want to isolate the y. Well, we know we can add in either order. If this was subtracting, it'd be a little bit different. So let's subtract 5 from both sides of the equation. So y equals 2. Okay, why don't you pause the video for 1 minute and solve the next 3, number 4, 5, 6. Okay, thank you for pausing and working ahead. So you should have drawn the fulcrum there. We want to get n by itself, so we're going to add 7 to both sides. N equals 19. Plug the 19 in to make sure it works. Yes, sir. We want to isolate the b, so we're going to add 5 to both sides. 13 equals b. Don't flip it. Don't put the b on the other side. Okay, so 13 minus 5 is 8. Ooh, this is one tricky. We can't just flip it. We can't just add 5 to both sides. So for now, we're just going to ignore this problem. Okay. In the future, I'll teach you how to do this. The answer is -2, but we're not going to get to this yet. So let's just ignore. All right, next set of problems. Now we're going to do the multiplicative property of equality. Okay, so this tells us we can multiply or divide, because we know multiplication and division are inverses, the same value to both sides of an equation. Okay, so we want to isolate our variable, and divided by 4 is 12. We want to get rid of divided by 4, so we're going to multiply by 4. N equals 48. Plug it in to make sure. Yep. Isolate the b, so opposite of divided by 5 times 5. 40 equals b. Then plug 40 in to make sure. Y divided by 10 equals 8. The inverse of divided by, multiply by 10. Y equals 80. And then plug it in. Okay, pause and try the next set. Okay, so we want to isolate n times 4. So we're going to divide by 4. N equals 3. We have 2 b's, and we want just to know 1 b, so we're going to divide both sides by 2. 4 equals b. Now be careful when we plug it in. 2b, we need to put in parentheses. 2 fourths is 8. Okay, divide by 10. Y equals 8. All right, let's do some mixed review doing both the additive property of equality or the multiplicative property. B minus 14 is 30. I want to isolate the b, so I have to get rid of the minus 14. So let's add 14 to both sides. B equals 44. We can put the 44 in to check. Ah, look at this one. Getting a little fancy on this one. 30b minus 17.1 equals 1/20. Whoa, all kinds of stuff to do with that one. All right, so let's figure out. Here we have decimals. Let's first change this to decimals. 0.05. That might make my life a little bit easier. Okay, so now we want to isolate our variable. Well, let's get rid of the plus 17.1 on both sides. And we are going to get here, guys. 30b equals 17.15. But I still have 30b. This is actually two-step. So I could redraw my fulcrum. 30b equals 17.15. I want to get b by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 30. And that's as far as we're going to go right now. You'd be left with b equals 17.15 over 30, which is pretty complex. Next one, y divided by 5 is 10. A little bit simpler. We want to get y by itself, so we're going to do times 5 to both sides. Y equals 50. 7g equals 35. So I want to get the g by itself, so instead of multiplying by 7, we're going to divide by 7. G equals 5. We plug 5 in up here. 7 5s is 35. I forgot to do this on this last one. I should put 50 in for y to make sure. Okay, another super complex one. We're going to skip it for now, but this is where you'll get to eventually. We'll get to ones like this with lots of work. Okay, this is algebra. So you know how to do it. It just would take you lots of steps. We're going to try to isolate g step by step. Okay, the last one, 80 equals g plus 5. We want to get the g by itself, so let's subtract 5 from both sides using the additive property of equality. We can plug 75 up in here for g to make sure it works. All right, there you have it. Good job.